Okay. Consider this a trigger warning. I'm going to talk about something called histrionic personality disorder, otherwise known as HPD. It is going to be a really sensitive kind of topic. If you are triggered by these kind of things, it is quite controversial, can be whatever, be warned. Okay, histrionic personality disorder is a psychological disorder. Now, for the last several weeks or so, I've been talking a lot about mental health and personality disorders. This one runs along the same sides, but it is psychological. It is not the same as mental health, but it does run along the same sides. Psychological disorders are extreme. Okay. So HPD is a psychological disorder, and it means that the person who has it has an extreme pattern of emotional behaviour and attention-seeking behaviour. Okay. Generally, people with this disorder are described as theatrical or dramatic people. Most people are characterised as very shallow or have shallow emotions. They can have very manipulative behaviours. Symptoms will start to show in early adulthood. They do not show themselves as a rule in childhood. It's early adulthood. Okay. It's actually been found that between 1% and 3% of Americans specifically, have HPD. I couldn't find the statistics globally, but this is what has been found in America. Now, yeah. Now, I went to really look into it, but a lot of what I found coincides with a lot of the symptoms and signs of it. Okay, so I'm going to kind of look into that and kind of try and explain it as well as I found it and kind of can. But I think a lot of it is kind of self-explanatory and things that you would kind of understand. I actually kind of couldn't find a lot else rather than what you're going to hear. So people with histrionic personality disorders will be very suggestible and quick to respond to things like fads, like fashion trends, and anything else. So things that you'd find like TikTok trends and anything they'll find on the internet or social media, or they'd bend to peer pressures. Like if the people around them started doing something or said that this thing is like fashionable, they'd do it, they'd go and get it, they'll start behaving in a certain way. I can imagine these were the types of people that when that TikTok trend or the social media trend or the internet trend of coronavirus, the cures or whatever of coronavirus, when it was, lick toilets and do this and do, they were the types of people that believed all of that and would go and do it. They would be the types of people that you'd catch there licking their toilets and whatever because somebody on the internet told them to. They'd be those types of people. They'd be the types of people that saw a trend of certain foods or certain drinks. Clothing, they would have to have the latest thing because it's fashionable or trendy. So they would be very, very suggestible, very suggestible, and I can imagine they would be the types of people that when somebody turned around on the internet and said, lick your toilet bowls, it will stop you getting it will stop you getting COVID, they would be the ones doing that. Completely be the ones that are going around licking toilets so they didn't get COVID. Yeah, not something that it's not sensible, it's not, they can't control it, it's not something it's not something you'd expect people to do, and you think it's like, why would they do that? But it's psychological. You'd also think they would also have, like, they'll display exaggerated. This is why people find them very dramatic or theatrical, because they'll display very exaggerated symptoms of weakness or illness. I mean, we all do it. Especially as women, we all describe men when they get sick as having man flu. One cough, one sneeze, and all of a sudden they're dying. Women can get it too, only we call it princess flu. Now, when my sister was in her teenage years, one of my sisters was in her teenage years, not all of my sisters, one of my sisters was in her teenage years. Every time she got sick, she would lay on the sofa and be, well, I'm dying, somebody help me, I can't move. And she'd lay on the sofa with a blanket and be all like, oh, somebody, I'm gonna die. Princess flu. Okay, and it's princess flu. So men have man flu, women have princess flu. And anybody with HPD will display these kind of very exaggerated symptoms. So they would have very severe man flu or very severe princess flu. Every time they got sick or every time they felt weak or kind of vulnerable, they'd be very kind of over the top. And it's kind of funny when you look at, like, people do this, but if you have no psychological issues, it's pathetic. If you have a condition like HPD or any other kind of issues like that, it's not quite so funny because they can't actually help it. They can't stop themselves. It's weird because in some sense it's hilarious, and in some sense you think, should I be laughing at this? It's hilarious, but this person's got a mental, got a condition, and they actually physically can't stop themselves. They can, they can't. They're doing it on purpose to seek attention because they're being pathetic and they're just whatever. This person's doing it because they can't stop it. They can't help it. And I bet if they could, they wouldn't do it. It's a strange kind of feeling. And again, this concept of constantly performing. So they will be engaging in attention-seeking behaviour and they will constantly perform. So again, when we say that they have this dramatic personality, they're very theatrical, you will find that someone with HPD is always dramatic, it always feels when you're around someone with HPD, that person, it always feels like that person is putting on a performance, because they are constantly putting on a performance. It's like they need to entertain the masses. And it's this constant need for that attention. Look at me, I'm entertaining you. must be quite exhausting, to be fair, which moves on to the next thing. They have very fleeting moods. Opinions. So they have fleeting moods, opinions, and beliefs. And to me, that says that their moods can change very, very quickly. They can change from one mood to another, just sort of like that. So, and so do their opinions and their beliefs. But remember that they are persuaded to do almost anything very easily. They are very suggestible. So the fact that their opinions and their beliefs change very, very easily, so just swing from one to the other, very fleeting, doesn't surprise me. If they are suggestible and they bend to every trend, it doesn't surprise me that their opinions and their beliefs, they are very fleeting. They just don't stick. They will change every 5 seconds because they will bend to everybody. Their opinions will match whoever they're talking to. And so will their beliefs. They will go with the trend. They will go with whatever the world is agreeing with at the time. To a point, I don't even think they really have any real opinions or beliefs of their own. And if they do, they're very confused. They probably struggle to contain their own opinions and beliefs because the world around them means that they change them, because when the world changed their opinions on certain things, so will they. It must be very confusing to be them. To never have a true opinion or a true belief in anything. And if they do, how can they stick to it if it changes so quickly? I would find that so maddening in my head that I couldn't stick to a core belief or a core opinion about a set subjects. And that nobody could persuade me to change my opinions or beliefs through thorough arguments or through facts and figures, because we couldn't have a discussion on opinions and beliefs and say, well, this is this and this is that, and I believe this and I have an opinion on that. Because if they're changing constantly, you wouldn't know what you truly believe or what your true opinions really are. No wonder your moods kind of change from one minute to the next. That would be so incredibly awful. The problem is, they need others to witness their emotional displays. There is constant need for validation. Or even just the need of attention means that every time they have their mood changes, every time their opinions, their beliefs, their moods, every time anything changes in them, they need others to see it. They need to be validated. They need their mood, their feelings, their emotions. They need them to be validated by everybody else. So exhausting. One thing that did kind of surprise me was the fact that they are very sexually provocative. But they do it in order to control other people. I mean, everything they've done is for themselves. Everything they do, everything about their personality, everything to do with their condition is very self-motivated. But when they are very sexually provocative to control others, and even though they're doing it for attention, they're doing it to control other people. That is that one kind of thing that kind of sets this whole thing kind of on its head a bit, because you just sit there and go, this condition is very self. But then you want to control other people just for you. Right? You want attention by controlling other people. So, is this whole personality disorder about controlling your environment? You know, it did kind of make me wonder. I mean, when I first sort of started looking into it, all I saw was this very kind of self. And then I saw that. And then I read the next bit and it just said they were doing it for attention. Which made me wonder if all of the other signs and symptoms of HPD, histrionic personality disorder, that looked like it was all very self, was it really about controlling their environment, controlling the people around them, controlling everything? Controlling people in their lives. You know, it did kind of make me wonder whether or not that was a massive part of this condition. Although it is very self-motivated, is it a lot about controlling their environment, a lot about controlling the people in their environment and the people that surround them, more than, you know, just so they can validate who they are, or even try to find who they are? You know, I don't know, it was a weird kind of thing to put in there, and a weird kind of symptom, because if that is how it works, it gives it a whole nother dimension, you know. But this one got me, because it kind of made me think that I was sort of right, even if I'm not completely right, because they use threats of suicide to manipulate others. Again, to control other people, they will do something selfish. Yeah, they don't like what's going on around them, so they'll threaten something stupid for themselves, which is very selfish, that they don't want to go through with, just so that other people will do what they want. It's a weird way of looking at it, but it did make me think that the whole of what histrionic personality disorder really was that those with the condition, feel the need to control and manipulate everyone around them, the whole of their environment, regardless of who they are and what their environment is, whether it's social, work, or personal. They will manipulate everything. They will control it all. They need to control it by putting themselves absolute dead centre and being extremely self-centred, because they have no idea who they are, what they are, or why they're there. And they just need to feel like they're somebody, because they have no idea what they're there for, or who they're there for, or why they're even there. They have no core opinions, they have no core beliefs, they have no real control of their emotions or feelings. that they, and all they've got is this absolute need for attention. Must be a very lonely kind of condition. The problem is, people with this condition, I did notice, is that they actually realise that their behaviour is actually wrong. The problem is, even though they know it's wrong, the behaviour is so natural to them that they can't stop it. And because they can't stop it, because it just feels so natural, they blame everybody else for all the challenges that they face, for everything that goes wrong, for every challenge they have to face. It's always somebody else's fault. How long have I been now? I've got a bit of time. Okay. One thing that we do know is that there is no actual test for HPD. No. There is a way to diagnose the condition. The DSM-5 have stated that there is a way to diagnose. There are signs and symptoms that the DSM-5 have stated need to be, they compiled a list of signs and symptoms that they need, that mental health specialists need to follow to diagnose somebody with HPD, and they have declared that they have to have at least 5 of these symptoms or signs to actually achieve a diagnosis of HPD. Okay, so what I'm going to do is I'm actually going to list off some of these. There's quite a few of them on here. They were thorough. HPD, the DSM-5 were thorough in this, okay? So they stated that in this list they had to have at least 5 to be diagnosed with HPD. So we've got, they must have discomfort in situations in which the person isn't the centre of attention. That's important, is not the centre of attention. That interaction with others that is often categorised as inappropriate, sexually seductive or provocative behaviours. Right? So that again goes in with like that they seduce, they're provocative for attention, like to control people. They have rapidly shifting or shallow expressions of emotion. Again, they're moods that are very fleeting. They consistently use physical appearance to draw attention to themselves. Again, that can go along with like the attention-seeking behaviours. That can go along with fashion trends. That can go along with several others of the signs and symptoms. They can use a style of speech that is excessively impressionistic and lacks detail. That to me, when I read that, I thought dramatic and theatrical. That is all that said to me. They are dramatic and theatrical. Look at me, performing. That said, they are performing constantly. Okay, display self-dramatisation, theatrically and exaggerated expression of emotion. Again, more about being dramatic and theatrical. But it does, again, being very exaggerated. They just are. They are easily influenced by others or by circumstances. And that again plays into the fact that they can be easily suggestible. They move by trends. They can be peer pressured into all sorts of things. And finally, they consider relationships to be more intimate than they really are. Now, I saw that kind of thing in borderline personalities, to a point where they actually when they're in relationships, the relationship is very intense. You know, they fall in love instantly. There's no other thing. You're in that relationship. You are completely in love with that person, and that's it. No other way of saying that. They're completely in love, and you know. Now, what I am going to do is I'm going to leave it there, because there's a lot more that I want to say about that. I will leave it here, and I will pick it up again tomorrow. So yeah,